Today in RPG Boons, we're going to look at that Western Reaches map compared to the Cursed Scrolls that have already been published and try to determine, are you getting more or less from the Dreamweaver herself. Before the Western Reaches, we already had 3 Cursed Scrolls out there. 1, 2, and 3. Diablerie, Red Sands, and Midnight Sun, all which offer different classes as well as a region of space where you can take your players out and do some adventuring.
For the love of God, we're having an adventure.
Now, with the successful launch of that Western Reaches Kickstarter, we were able to get 3 additional Cursed Scrolls, 4, 5, and 6, but something that's very much written in the text tells us that in the Western Reaches are also going to include 1 through 3, so you're going to get the first 3 scrolls, and you're also going to get 4, 5, and 6. But maybe you already have the first 3 and really want to know, is it worth getting those Western Reaches, getting those 3 additional Cursed Scrolls?
Would you say I have a plethora?
So today what I wanted to do is I want to take a look at the map and compare it to what's in the Cursed Scrolls and seeing what else did the Dreamweaver give us. What we're looking at here is the Western Reaches map. You know, it looks like this is really nice. It looks like it's a quarter of a region. So we know there's a south, east, and southeast from this direction where you can actually find a lot more cool things. So what I want to briefly do is just go over the Cursed Scrolls, show the map, and talk a little bit about what's in them. Here in the player's guide, I've shown you a list of all the new ancestries as well as the old ancestries. The new ancestries being the half-elf, the kobold, and the goblin, which are not included in any of the Cursed Scrolls. In addition, we're looking at all the different classes in this Western Reaches player's guide. You can see what are the new ones here. Well, it's the Green Knight class, it's the Kizian Archer, the Monk, the Necromancer, the Paladin, and the Roustabout class. So indeed, in this player's guide, you are going to get a couple more, well, 3 more races and a few more classes to work with. I think one of the most underappreciated things about all the different Cursed Scrolls is all these different classes are associated with specific regions within the Western Reaches. And these classes are very much tailored to those regions. And we're going to cover that just a little bit. And so you can imagine with all these different classes, especially the ones that are going to be using magic, you're going to get additional spells with those, really expanding your repertoire of spells that you can use for your game. So this is the very first Cursed Scroll, Shadowzine Volume 1, Diablerie, as at least the way I like to say it, c'est le français.
And you can quote him.
Now the cool thing about this Cursed Scroll, you're going to get the Knights of St. Idris class. Now this one is pretty much looks like a Dark Paladin class. You also get the Warlock and you get the Witch class, all of which are going to have some type of spells or some type of special features to those classes. In this Cursed Scroll, they also provide you with the map, and here you can see Fenmerie Lake with a bunch of points of interest all in the periphery and actually one within the lake at some little island. And the question now becomes, in this first Shadowzine here, where is this location actually placed within the Western Reaches? Now, I've shown you here the Western Reaches map. You can see that there are major points of interest listed here, but how does that compare to the Cursed Scrolls? And if you look here, Fenmerie Lake is actually not listed in this map. At least you don't see the name, but you can definitely see the design of the lake on the map. And here it is in the red square. And so you can see what I try to do is I try to capture as much as I can from the map in the Cursed Scroll. You can see the 3 little branches at the bottom there coming off of the lake from the river. And I captured that in the Western Reaches map. Now you can see exactly where this stuff is. Now the Cursed Scroll 2 is called the Red Sands. And you can see here the map for that, and you can see various types of plateaus and very deserty looking areas, as well as a bunch of points of interest. And in this Cursed Scroll, you're going to get the Desert Rider, the Pit Fighter, and the Rosgodai. Now when I think of these 3 classes, I think of the Gladiator. Russell Crozer with a bunch of other slaves, or at least captured people. And you can see they're getting them ready to be chosen as gladiators. This pretty much resembles that. So now where are these red sands located within the Western Reaches? And you can see based on these really big hallmarks such as the Gilzai Mountains, you can see they're actually written out here in the Western Reaches. And if we look at the way those mountains are placed and the amount of terrain there is there, I think I've placed this correctly on the Western Reaches map. So it's located somewhere in the southern east area of the Western Reaches.
What we doing live? Echoes in eternity.
Cursed Scroll number 3, Midnight Sun, takes place in the Viking lands, so you get your whole Norse mythology, Odin, the gods. You get 2 classes, the Seawolf class, the Seer class. And you can see here that the map is of a bunch of islands, so emphasizing sea travel. Now this one was relatively easy to find. If you look for anything that resembles an island on the Western Reaches map, you can look at that top left area and you can clearly see there's the islands of Andric, which is where the Midnight Sun takes place. When it comes to Curse Scroll number 4, Rivers of the Night, this is a very much Aztec Mayan style type of scenario, and in this Curse Scroll you also get the Basilisk Warrior class, which I think represents the native warrior that you would normally see in these Aztec Mayan civilizations. And the ranger, very interestingly, plays very much like you would think a ranger would play, especially somewhere like in the forest or in this jungle of the Rivers of the Night. Another interesting thing about the River of the Night, you can see that there's two maps where I put one on top of the other, so you can kind of get the full scope of what it covers. And again, what we're looking at here is a lot of points of interest. Now, if we take that map and try to figure out where it is on the Western Reaches map, I found the geographical location based on the design of the river, and you can see that this is indeed the Tal Yul jungle where the River of the Night takes place, located in the southwest area of the Western Reaches map. I purposely skipped Curse Scroll number 5 just because that one's a little tricky and I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. So here what we're looking at is the City of Masks, where we get the Bard class and the Duelist class, which have very unique talents and abilities. This city is pretty easy to find. You can look at the Western Reaches map, and over here on the coastline, centrally located, you can see there. Okay, so let's talk about that Curse Scroll number 5, Dwellers in the Deep, and this takes place in Morzomothma. This underground cavernous system, you can see down at the very bottom right there, it's 1 hex equals 6 miles, spans a pretty far distance within the underground of the Western Reaches. However, there's no really way of locating exactly where this is because it is underground. But perhaps there are some clues that might point to where we think this Morzomothma is. We have all the different regions that we covered here. So what I wanted to do is try to look at things within that Morzomothma cavernous underground system and see, is there anything that's related to anything else in the other Curse Scrolls, or maybe it's somewhere in between this Western Reaches map where it hasn't yet been indicated in this player's guide. As I was skimming the Western Reaches player's guide, I found that goblins come mainly from the deepest parts of Sablewood and in the cave systems beneath the Ramshire Mountains. Now here we're looking at the Ramshire Mountains up at the north, making this a possibility of where this cavernous system actually is. In the Red Sands from the Curse Scroll number 2. In the description of Alkesh, you can see here, Afarim Zarat occasionally holds silent courts at midnight in the tunnel beneath the souk. And this indicates that there's potentially a tunnel system underneath this area in the desert. However, if we look at the River of Night Curse Scroll number 4, we notice here at the 006 landmark, it says, a vast sinkhole hides a village of 200 souls that has dwelt for centuries in the darkness. If it's a sinkhole, that suggests it falls deep within the earth, potentially getting into the cavernous locations of Morzomothma. In the 606 landmark, Mouth of Yao, there are these stalagmites that grow like a forest. There is a pit. However, in this description, it does not say that there's something above the pits. If we look at another landmark in the Morzomothma, the Rocky Chimney, it says a faint gray glow at the top of this vast cavern hints at an exit to the sunlit surface. Now, it is possible that that exit at Rock's Chimney is actually the sinkhole located just west of the river. However, with the collaboration of a fellow Shadowdark player, I can't give his name because, basically I'd be calling him out, but I'm just going to go by his first name, Trevor. We discussed this over. He actually pointed out some of the key locations as well as the two that I just pointed out. But he believes that this place here, the Abyss located in the Morzomothma, is the location of the sinkhole in the River of Night. And here, if you read Site 1005, the Abyss, a thundering waterfall blasts out over the edge of the broad sinkhole filled with hazy mist. However, this does not tell us if the sinkhole is actually above, and so there's really no way of knowing if this is exactly where the sinkhole is. However, the use of the word sinkhole is here, the Abyss location, as well as Azuraman's sinkhole. So I do believe this makes it the likely place where you can find Morzomothma in the Western Reaches. Another key feature that really gives this potential of being the place is this wrecked ship here located in Morzomothma at the 104 landmark. the drained basin. Here it reads, this bowl-like cavern is covered in a carpet of fish skeletons, petrified seaweed, and spiraling seashells that pop underfoot. This humid air still smells of long-gone salt water. Now this would suggest that somehow there was salt water that came here. That's very much an ocean thing. Now if we just take this map, try to take that sinkhole from both locations and try to superimpose them and toggle between the two, you can see I overlaid it here, toggling both different maps, making one more transparent than the other. Now you can take this location and bring it all the way back to the Western Reaches map to kind of give you an idea where Morzomothma might be. In addition, that shipwreck you can see here on the top left is located somewhere in the ocean, really giving this potentially the place where Morzomothma is. So with that, I think we found every location of the Cursed Scrolls within the Western Reaches maps. And as you can also see, there's plenty of open space and more things to discover once we get that DM guide to the Western Reaches. And I'm also very hopeful that when we get that DM guide or Game Master's guide, we're going to actually find exactly where we can locate this interest into Morzomothma. I think the Dreamweaver did it. She gave us a lot to work with here. She gave us a nice huge sandbox. I really love how a lot of these classes related to the geographical location within Western Reaches, really giving you an idea of how those classes should exist in specific regions. However, it also gives you a really nice backstory, because now you can imagine if you're a pit fighter from Alkesh and you make it all the way to the city of Mask, you have an amazing background, and you can also think about that journey you can make along the way. So I'm really hoping that DM guide has a lot more things. A lot more locations are clearly listed here that are of interest, but I'm hoping we get a really hardcore solid breakdown of all this area. And you never know, I think in the future the Dreamweaver will weave and give us more region to work with, not just the Western, the Eastern Reaches, the Southlands, and whatever is down there to the southeast. I'm Don Franco 3. This is RPG Boons, where we talk about everything RPG and how everything is RP. If you like the cut of my gibberish, you know what to do, and I'll get back to you. Leave a comment.